issue we faced about the namespace. Just a small mistake we have done. Actually, in the namespace, everything rest of the concept is same. Whatever we learned is same. Only the point is the main namespace doesn't require an export. That is only the point. The main namespace, because by default, the main namespace is an export. So in a namespace, by default, the main namespace is export. So it doesn't require a marker of export. So other namespace that you define inside, they need an export. The main namespace doesn't need an export. So rest of concept will be same. Rest of all options will be same. So what we have done, library. In the library, we created contract. And what is the contract? Contract related. The main namespace is project. In that we have sub namespace called contracts. And in that we have an interface. Interface is having name, price, quantity, total. We created template and we have to import the contract. How do we import the contract? By using reference path. Reference path, and we alias it. We can alias or we can use a fully qualified name. For aliasing, we can define directly this import. And we are implementing the contract with some abstract methods. Now we created a component. In the component, we are importing template. And here we have the same hierarchy as components. Now we this. So here we have price is this dot price, and quantity is this dot quantity, and total is this dot total. We are defining all these members. Now, once we define this, now we need to run the index. In index, we have to import the component, create an object, through that we can access print. And how to run this? We have to go to that app folder. In that we have to use tsc -out file index.js index.ts. It will compile all the files and generate the code. And you have to just run index node index.js. It is going to display the output. This time we are using what? Namespace. At a higher hierarchy, if there are many modules to maintain, then to reduce the ambiguous issues, better you can go with the namespace. So I given the definition. I given the definition about namespace, right? Syntax and definition about namespace. So here one important question is, what is fully qualified and aliasing namespace? What is fully qualified and aliasing namespace? The fully qualified and aliasing namespace. So fully qualified is nothing but, so fully qualified refers to complete hierarchy of library. complete hierarchy of library. That means here we have to define some project. In the project contracts, in the contracts contract name, that is fully qualified. Aliasing is aliasing is the process of importing fully qualified and defining a shortcut. Aliasing is the process of importing fully qualified and defining a shortcut. That means what we do, import some contract name is equal to project dot contracts dot contract name. That is fully qualified and aliasing. So that is working with the namespace. Example I will give here. I will copy that example. What we done, same module system. So we have library contracts in that product contract dot ts. In product contract dot ts, this is the code. The product contract dot ts, this is the code we are having. That's the code product contract dot ts. Next, we have library templates product template dot ts. Product template dot ts, this is the code. So in the product template, we have to import by using reference path. Next, we have library components, product component.ts. This is the product component. And finally, we are having app in that index.ts. Index.ts is this. And we need to define generate output file. So tsc out file index.js index.ts. That is the out file we have to do. This is a complete example of a namespace. Actually, at higher hierarchy, our project is built with namespaces. Means libraries are built with namespace. We don't directly use a namespace in any React environment. What we do is we create a library with the namespace and we import and use it. Now, next important is here, we need to understand how to create a React TypeScript application. Create React TypeScript application. How do we create React TypeScript application? And creating React TypeScript application, how do we do that? Same concept, but this time what we have to do is first you have to run the command from any location in your drive. You want to create a project, you can use npx. What is it? Create React app, and you can define the app name and hyphen template TypeScript. You have to write like this. So in order to create a React application with the TypeScript as language, you have to run this command. npx create React app, and the app name and the template is a flag TypeScript. Actually, this is already known to us. Without this, it is going to generate a React application with JavaScript as a language. Here it is going to generate a TypeScript application, right? So what we do is, let's go to the computer location. Suppose in our computer, so here I will create a in E drive or F drive. Yeah. So here I am creating in my E drive. I'm doing this. The command prompt. In my computer, in my E drive, I'm creating a project. So npx create React app and the app name. App name is React TypeScript app. Some name I'm giving. And template is the flag, and template is what? TypeScript. Template is TypeScript. And remember, before this, you have to make sure that in your PC TypeScript is installed. Already TypeScript is installed. We installed TypeScript. We created an TypeScript project and we learned TypeScript. So TypeScript, if it is not there, then first we have to set up the TypeScript. Then we have to do this. Already TypeScript is there. Then we can use the template TypeScript. Now it is going to create a React application with the TypeScript as template. And we already know npx is creating a TypeScript React application using Webpack as bundler. npx means it is using Webpack as bundler. What are other bundlers available? We can use White, you can use Parcel. These are the other bundlers available. So here npx uses Webpack as bundler for creating React TypeScript application. TypeScript application. So it requires TypeScript on the device. TypeScript to install on the device. TypeScript to install on the device means you have to run this. Already I given npm install globally TypeScript. This already we done actually. So TypeScript, React TypeScript application, it looks everything similar as your JavaScript application. Only few changes will be there. What are the changes is React TypeScript app file system. One important is, so file system similar to JS app, JavaScript application, but some changes are there. What are the changes? One concept I told you, when you create a project with TypeScript as language, one file will be added to your project, tsconfig.json. That is the file added. So it is nothing but TypeScript configuration file. TypeScript configuration file. That is one file added into your project. So others are same. Everything is same. Only the point is .jsx we were using. Now it will be tsx. So tsx, this is for components. For components, what we have to do, we have to use tsx for components, not only components, and for hooks also. For components and hooks, we learned how to create a custom hook. We can create a custom hook. So for components and hooks, we use tsx. And another one is .ts. This is for contracts. This is for templates. For contracts and templates, the file extension must be ts. So because in a project, we need some contracts. For contracts, I will show you. For contracts, we need this ts. So in the file system, you will not see much changes. You will not see much changes. You will see other public SRC, all are same. There is no change. Even the complete library also same. Only the point is, instead of JavaScript, you will have project is create. It is setting up the project here. Okay, this is the TypeScript, and you can see tsconfig is generated and everything is ready. Now let's close and open this in our Visual Studio Code. Let's open the project, open folder. In E drive, I created a React TypeScript application. And React TypeScript application, it almost looks everything same. There is no change. In the file system, everything is same. Only the difference is this tsconfig. That is only the file. Your public is same. Your SRC is same. Everything same. And in SRC, you will find index.tsx, app.tsx, test.tsx. That is a testing file actually. And CSS are normal. There is no change, right? All the files are same. Only this configuration file will be there. So here you can see this is TS config. And you can observe here in some interviews, the questions will be related to this, which already I told you. In interviews, they ask like, how do I set my TypeScript language to translate into JavaScript ES6 or ES7? That depends on target. Here target is currently ES5. Majority all projects are using ES5. Some are using ES6. Then they can change this from ES5 to ES6. ES6. And one more is module system. Module system, it is using ES Next, which is the latest module system. The latest module system, it is using ES Next. So in interviews, the question related to TypeScript is two important things is uh, how to set up the target JavaScript version for TypeScript. That is the first one. So here you have to go to tsconfig.json. In tsconfig.json, here you will find a setting that is in the compiler options. You have target. So compiler options. In the compiler options, target will be there. Other settings also will be there. You need to set up this one. Target. So here you can set ES6, ES7. You can set up. So another one is, what is the default module system of React TypeScript app? So React TypeScript application default module system is ES Next. That is the module system. If you want, you can see that in tsconfig.json. This is also in tsconfig.json. So default module system. So your TypeScript project is ready. Now we will see what are the changes in creating components, data binding, style binding, class binding, event binding. No, everything will be same. Only the change is in the concept of declaring your references. Because it is a strongly typed language, when you declare any reference, its type must be defined. That is one thing. So let's go to the project now. In this project, we will start the project. And as I said, everything is same, npm start. And it is a TypeScript application with Webpack as a bundler. And your concept of components and everything will be similar. So the app is working fine. Now only the point is how you add the components, how to access, configure everything. Right? Let's see. Now we need to add a new component. So we will go to SRC. We will create a new folder. One is components. We have to define components. Okay. And in the components, I am adding a new one. Suppose I'm adding a component called data binding. Just data binding. And how to add a file. This time the file is data binding.tsx. It's not JSX, it is TSX. And how to create a component, same. Export TypeScript function, JavaScript function, same. And export here function. Function name is data binding. And I told you in TypeScript, the function requires a return type. And what is the return type? Currently it is void. You don't, I told you already, we can mention the type. Type as what? JSX. We have to use JSX. And you see JSX is a namespace here. This indicates that it is a namespace. In the curly brace, that is a namespace. But one of the main advantages is by default, it supports type inference. When it supports type inference, you don't need to mention the type. You have to just return, and based on what you are returning, its type will be determined. Suppose I returned a number, you know that the return type of this will be number. Now it is to return a JSX div. Here we are creating an element, and automatically you can see it becomes JSX element. That is a JSX element. By default, the type is JSX element. You don't need to mention. In some places in project, you may see people writing type as JSX element because in their project, by default, type inference may be disabled. That if they disable, then that disable enable they can do in TS config. And if it is not disabled, then automatically, so this is used. Already we know that according to the type of data we initialize, the data type will be determined in TypeScript. This concept is called as what? Type inference. Type inference. Otherwise, manually you have to define like this. So here, one important concept. So what is the new points you need to know? Components in TS TypeScript. Here, what is the basic is component extension, component file extension must be TSX. Component file extension must be TSX. A function component must have type defined as JSX element. It is defined as JSX element. Defined as, must have type defined as JSX. So if type inference is configured, then it is implicitly defined. It is implicitly defined. So export function, so function name, and we have a JSX element. And it should return a JSX element. That is the new point you need to know. That is component. So when you define component in types, new point to understand. The rest of data binding, style binding, class binding, everything is same. But some change in the state. So here, that is component actually configuring state in TypeScript. Components and how do you configure state in TypeScript? So configuring state in TypeScript actually here you can see we need to configure state. So I am using constant. So this is like some data. That means we are handling some data. Suppose we want to access data from some fake store like API, we want to access data. So we will use categories and set categories is equal to use state. Hooks are same, there is no change. But this time, this use state is a generic type. You need to configure what type of data you are dealing with. What type of data we are dealing with. So we are expecting a string array. Then how do you write a string array? A string array. We are expecting a string array. Then obviously the use state is expecting a string array now. That means it is an array of string. It is expecting an array of string type. That is one option. Okay. Next, we are expecting products. Products, or we are expecting one product. One product means based on ID, we can access one product and use it. Now, already we discussed that objects also needs a contract. That means what type of object you are dealing. Earlier, what we were doing when we declare the state, we are mentioning object must have ID, title, something. So now this time what we do is we have to create a separate in SRC a folder contracts. In the contracts, we need to design a contract. And what is the contract is fake store contract dot what ts. Contracts, abstract classes, templates, these are all designed by using ts. Now in the contract, how to design a contract, we already know. Export, interface, that is fake store contract. And what should be in this contract? It should have an ID, which is a number. It should have a title, it is string. It should have some price, which is number. It should have some description. Description is also string. It must have image. Image is a string. String. We are we already know what type of data it contains. Based on that, I am giving, and it should have a rating. And rating is an object where rate is a number and the count is also a number. This is the data we are expecting. That means that is the data we are expecting. So you know the fake store data. Fake store api.com/product/one. Some one product related data it is coming. Products/one. Okay. It is going to get one product and show. And it is having ID, title, price, description, category, image, rating. So according to that, we are defining here. We have one more. What is it? Category. Category is a string type. Now this is the contract. Now what we have to do? We need to use this contract. So we have to import what is it? We have to import fake store contract from contracts. And we need to configure the state. How do we define the state? Constant products. Product. We are expecting only one product. Then set product. Okay. Is equal to use state. And this is a fake store contract type. Generic types already we discussed that. This is a fake store. Then obviously it is a fake store type data should come into it. That means now this product is a fake store type. It is a fake store type. And you see undefined. Undefined because it is not having any value initialized. That means it is a union of type. And if I want collection of products, then I am creating constant. What is it? Products, set products. And how do you define a collection of products? Yep. So how do we define a collection of products here? Collection of products is what? Use state. Use state is what? Fake store contract. This is array. Fake store contract array type. That means it is a collection of products. That means it is nothing but it is a collection of objects. And those every object must be fake store type. One object, array of objects. So already I showed you this in generics. Employee, employees, different type products, how to configure the generics we learn. This is one important thing, how to configure a state to handle particular type of data. You create a contract and define the contract as a generic type. So what is new in this configuring state? So state is defined with the use state hook. So use state is generic type. It is a generic type. It is a generic type method. Use state is a generic type function. Because hooks are already functions and we know generic function. That means syntactically use state and it is a type. That's how we configure. So that is the generic type. Use state is a generic type. So you can configure the type. You can configure the type while defining the state, while defining the state. Or what you can do, configure the type while defining the state means what? You can define use state. Here we can directly define the type. You can directly define the type. Use state and what is this key and value. Directly you can define the type like this. How to define array of objects? So use state, you know that this is an object type array. That's how we configure. Already we learned all these declaration syntaxes. In TypeScript, we learned how to declare. So all those are same. It's a generic. So you can also configure a contract. You can also configure a contract for state. You can also configure a contract for state. That means use state and the contract and the type of data you want to deal. Use state, the contract can be an array to handle the type of data. Configuring the state, one new concept is this. So what is the changes in the declaration of state, in the configuration of the state? Now, data binding, style binding, class binding, event binding, all are same. There is no change in that. All here date binding, style binding, class binding, event binding. So TypeScript application, TS application uses the same techniques as JavaScript. Uses the same techniques as JavaScript. Uses the same techniques as JavaScript. So there is no change in data binding, style binding, class binding, and event binding. There will be no change in that. Everything will be same. So that means binding expression is this, right? We have to use the same binding expression. But here one important concept is that data presentation, data binding requires. This is one new thing. Data binding requires null specification, null reference specification. Data binding requires null reference specification for any state reference, any state value that you are using in JSX. Data binding requires null reference specification for any state value that you are using in JSX. That is one important point actually. What is null reference? Null reference character is what? Question mark. We have to use the null reference character question mark. So here, AJAX requests are same. AJAX requests are same. There is no change. That means you can use XML HTTP request. You can use fetch. You can use jQuery AJAX. You can use Axios. All these are same. There is no change. All the AJAX requests are same. There is no change. So one point is here, how to deal with, how do we handle with this Axios? Axios also same. There is no change. Data coming through API and state, how to present it. One small change you will find. The rest of things are same. Let's do this and create one design. We want to make data binding in startup. We will go to index.tsx and you can see your index.tsx also no change. Everything same. All the libraries same. Everything change. Data binding. We are importing the data binding. Everything is ready. And here, what we do is, we need to install Axios. So npm install Axios and save. We are installing Axios. Bootstrap icons, all are same. There is no change in that. So let's keep a simple thing first. Okay. Now, how do we configure? We are using use effect. Use effect is a hook. And this use effect hook is going to return the presentation. Okay. This is on mount phase. As I said, there are no changes. So first option is function load categories. And remember, you use as it is as JavaScript, no change, because actually TypeScript requires a type as void. But we know that already project is set with type inference. So just write whatever you do in your JavaScript, types will be automatically determined for them. So now what we have to do, Axios, we have to import Axios dot what get. https://fakestore.com/products/categories. And we are using dot then. And we are defining here. So the response. And response is coming in the form of, what we have to do. So we need to define set categories. Into set categories, you can see it is strictly expecting a string type array. Or it is undefined if you don't pass a value. And we are using the response.data. That is ready. Now we call the load categories here. Load categories we are accessing. Now here we are defining a simple ordered list. So ordered list, I want to display all the categories. Now comes an interesting part here. When I say categories dot map, I am using, it puts a question mark. it puts a question mark. Why? Because if the data is not coming from the API, by default it is null. That means it is not having any data. And that means it may be null or having a data. And remember, this is not required to mention if you initialize by default one data. That means suppose what I do here, I'm using by default in the data, it is a string array. Means I initialize. If I initialize it, it is not null now. Why? Because by default it is having one record. That means one element is present. In that case, what happens now is we have categories dot map. That means there is no need of question mark. So when you need that, if you don't initialize the state, then you have to use a null reference. If you initialize, it means by default one value is there, right? So this is one small change you will find here. So syntactically, so suppose use constant categories, set categories, and use state, and it is a string type array. And here you are not initially do categories question mark dot map. We have to write like this because if not initialize, then it returns null. If not initialized, it returns null. If a constant categories set categories is equal to use state, and it is a string type array, and it is initialized with a string type element. It is initialized with a string type. Then in that case, you can directly use categories dot map. You can directly define this. Null reference not required. Why? Because it is initialized. So it cannot be null now. It can never be null because already it is initialized. If it is not initialized, then you need to use a null reference. Actually, TypeScript automatically verifies whether it is defined or not. And if it is not defined, it will put a null. That is one change you will find. So here I am using categories.map and read every category and need to print as a list item. The key is category and the value is category. There is no change in rest of concept. Everything is same and it is going to display all the categories here. It is going to read and display all the categories. So it's the same. There is no change in that. And how about products? So we are having a function, load products, and it is using axios.get. It is https fakestoreapi.com/products and .then. Then we need to configure a response. This response set products. We have set products. Set product. This is a different one because we have two options. Set product is there, set products also there. Set products response dot data. And how do we read here? So load products. This is loading all the products and we have to present the products. So we are just adding a main something, and in that products dot map, we need to put a map because we are not initializing. Then we need a null reference. Read every product, and for every product I am using an image. I will just keep a div, and in that we are using an image. Image source is coming from particular location. 1 second. Yep. So here image source is same. What is that? So we are having a product dot image. So width and height we are defining. And this is all the data we have. And I think key is product dot ID is the key. So this is all the products data we have. So we will put a style. So display as flex. So this is all the data we are having here. So we have a flex wrap as wrap. Okay, that is the data we are displaying here. So everything same. There is no change in the communication with APIs as X calls. You will not find any difference in style binding class binding. Only state declaration is the change you will find. All event binding techniques also same. There is no change in event binding. Event binding is nothing but I want to display the products belonging to particular category. All concepts are same. There is no change. That means you write a function, you point towards the function, everything same. And forms also same. That means forms in TS application. There is no change in the forms also. So you can use all the form libraries same as in JavaScript. That means you can use formic for forms. You can use yup for validations. So all the concepts are same. There is no change in the forms. So designing a form, interacting with the form, everything same. There is no change. So no need to explain the process. Another point, routing. Routing is also same. Routing and hooks, right? All the hooks and routing. Hook functions are same as in JavaScript, and routing library is same. There is no change. So that means it uses React router DOM with components. What are the components? Browser router. We need routes and we need route, and you need outlet. All these are same. There is no change in this. Hooks functions are same as in JavaScript. Routing library is same. React router DOM is also same. So everything is similar. So there is no change in all these concepts. Everything is exactly as defined. One example is I will copy this data binding .js tsx. But before this, what we done is we created contracts. In the contracts, we have fake store contract .ts. In the fake store contract, this is in SRC. All these contracts and everything must be in SRC folder only, right? And this is the contract we are having, fake store contract. And data binding TSX. This is the data binding TSX. That is the data binding TSX. All event binding, style binding, class binding, routing, hooks, everything same. There is no change in this. That means all the concepts are same. Now, once you know the TypeScript environment, now we can build an application by using both JavaScript as well as TypeScript as a language. So we created a TypeScript application. Now what we will do is we will do a project with TypeScript. So we will create one project using TypeScript. With the TypeScript, we will do that. And actually in the project, first I will show a simple process. Here our intention is to understand the CRUD operations, how to read, insert, update, delete. And in this project, we will use a MERN stack. We will use a MERN stack. So MERN stack is MongoDB for database. We will use MongoDB for database. Express.js, this is for middle for UI, user interface, and Node.js, this is for server. Server-side scripting programming, so we will do by using this. So we will build one application by using the MERN stack. And first we will take a simple application. Then we will go with a little complex, right? First, we need to understand the complete CRUD operations. So traditionally people have to get an idea. So we will design one application like some to-do application. We will create a to-do application initially. Later, we will create one video libraries project like YouTube. We will design one example like that. So in this to-do application, the complete environment we need to set up with MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to build one React project with TypeScript as a language. And what is the main intention to handle all the CRUD operations? CRUD operations means create, read, update, and delete. Actually, several people, how they learn is they use a JSON server. That means internally, you can maintain one JSON server and you maintain the data in that JSON server and you can design the front end using React. But what we will do is instead of using a JSON server, we will use a real database, middleware, server side. Later, you can replace them with your technologies. That means if you are using Oracle, you can use Oracle or MySQL as database. You can use your JSP, PHP, or you can use .NET, ASP.NET like technologies in the server side. And in the front end, you can use React. That is the process we can do. But for this, first you need to understand how to work with MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. I will not teach you here complete MongoDB and all. Here what we will do is we will learn what is needed for a project, how to design database, how to use the database commands for reading, inserting, updating, deleting. We will learn that. Then we can implement in a project. Right? That we'll see in next session. Right? From tomorrow, we are going to start a project. And in that project, first we will learn with database. First, we are going to learn how to design. First, I will give you overview of complete project. What is our project is going to do. Then according to that, we will build database, server side logic. We will create our own APIs. All these days we were using ready-made APIs. We will create our own API and we will use that API to handle the interactions. That we will see in the next session. Tomorrow we will start the project. Okay, right.